M2, Messages, CarPlay, and more. Here's everything Apple talked about at WWDC 2022.
Good morning and welcome to WWDC.
The event started off with iOS and the iPhone, where personalization and collaboration took center stage. There are some major changes coming to the iOS lock screen. The lock screen and home screen can change with your focus modes. With iOS 16, there's a lot more to change. In addition to some cool dynamic wallpaper effects, you can now have widgets in your lock screen. Some of the uses they demonstrated were using HomeKit and weather, making it easy to know what's going on at a glance. You can also put in calendar events, and I'm sure plenty of apps will be making their own lock screen widgets to provide iPhone users with faster information. In addition to widgets, Live Activities and the Live Activities API can bring things like scores from sporting events to the bottom of the lock screen available at a glance. Apple also demonstrated this with Uber, showing how long it would be for the car to arrive, and with music, showing off the full album art on the home screen. Beyond the pure usability improvements, there are also some great decorative and style improvements available through customization. You can easily edit your photos to various styles while setting them as your lock screen, and you can even add a depth effect, so the subject of your photo subtly appears in front of the clock. There are also adjustment options for the typeface and color of the clock. Another major change coming to iOS is iMessages. And no, Apple isn't adding RCS, but you can now unsend or edit messages up to 15 minutes after you send them. This is something that's available on a number of third-party apps and something we've wanted from iMessage for a while. Whether you're just fixing a typo or you sent a message to the wrong person, this will be really helpful. Now, one of the iOS improvements I'm most looking forward to are the improvements in dictation. The on-device dictation coming with iOS 16 allows you to seamlessly switch between typing and speaking. It allows you to go back and edit previously written text with your voice. I'll have to try it to see, but I've been using a Pixel 6 Pro recently, and its voice-to-text is noticeably better than my iPhone. Hopefully, these updates will help put them on par. There are also a ton more minor updates. Focus modes got even more improvements, working with in-apps and able to filter out specific conversations or websites. Apple News is getting a dedicated My Sports section that keeps you updated on all your favorite teams. Okay, now the thing I really want to talk about is the MacBook. So I'm going to rapid fire through a few of the other iOS additions. You can start SharePlay directly within FaceTime. SharePlay now works with iMessage. Apple Live Text on Photos now works in videos also. There's a pretty cool AI subject selection for copying just part of a photo. Wallet Photo ID support is continuing to expand. Key sharing within Wallet should be possible even with people who don't have an iPhone. Apple Pay Later offers no interest financing with 4 payments over 6 weeks and works just like the standard Apple Pay. And setup of parental controls is getting really easy on new devices. Now, one more important new feature Apple is adding to the iPhone is Safety Check. Apple's making it possible to quickly remove someone's digital access to your location, messages, and more, while limiting things like messages to a specific device. While privacy has always been important for Apple, this feature is of particular importance for people in abusive relationships, as it makes it easy to remove an abuser's digital access to their lives. Moving from the iPhone to the home, there really wasn't all that much new, but Apple continues to show its support for the upcoming Matter standard. And that standard promises better interoperability between devices of various manufacturers. The Home app has gotten a revamp though. You can now sort by device categories to see all your devices of a specific type in one place. You also have multi-camera grids that show up to 4 cameras at once, and then you can just swipe to see more. I definitely look forward to giving that a try. CarPlay, meanwhile, is getting some major improvements. The next generation of CarPlay is designed to allow the iPhone to play a larger role throughout the car, being front and center for the driver rather than just leading the entertainment section. Everything from climate control to the car's radio lives within CarPlay, with the iPhone being able to take over the instrument cluster, showing speed, driving mode, fuel level, and more. It's also heavily adaptable to the various screen configurations on different cars, and customizable, with various colors and styles for different gauges and displays. While I can't wait to give the new CarPlay a try, it'll be a while, with the vehicles with the new version beginning to be released at the end of next year. Now, I'm not an Apple Watch user, but there are some improvements coming with watchOS 9. As expected, watchOS is getting new faces and richer complications. There are also some fitness improvements. There are new running monitoring metrics, including stride length and vertical oscillation, and enhanced sleep metrics. Apple is also adding medication tracking and AFib history monitoring, pending FDA approval. A notable exception that won't be getting watchOS 9 is the Series 3, as it finally seems like the Series 3 may be discontinued after having survived far too many WWDCs. Now, on to the Mac and Apple Silicon. Apple Silicon with the M1 has been a major improvement over previous Intel Macs, and now Apple has moved beyond the M1 line to the M2. With the new chip, Apple continues to focus on efficiency and power consumption, but don't worry, because they keep getting faster. The M2 has an improved 100GB per second memory controller, which is 50% faster than M1. The base M2 chip also offers up to 24GB of memory, though the base amount is still just 8GB. The performance cores are getting faster, also having a larger cache, and the efficiency cores have an improved performance per watt. And of course, the M2 still has a great media engine with 8K support and support for ProRes, HEVC, and H.264 video. The M2 seems like a good step forward for Apple's base level chip, and with it, the company is releasing a brand new base level laptop, the new MacBook Air. The new MacBook Air brings with it a similar design to the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro, and to many people's chagrin, I'm sure, brings the notch. But that notch allows Apple to squeeze an extra 0.3 inches out of the display, bringing it up to 13.6 inches. The display is also brighter at 500 nits, rather than the 400 nits of the previous Air. It's also slightly lighter. It's at 2.7 pounds, rather than 2.8. Will most people notice? No, but it's pretty nice. It also brings in the MagSafe connector. The MagSafe connector is accompanied by 2 Thunderbolt ports and a headphone jack, and a 1080p FaceTime camera. I was a bit surprised to see that the MacBook Air wasn't the only device getting Apple's M2 chip though, as Apple also announced that M2 is coming to the 13-inch MacBook Pro. This one was a bit weird. It has a fan and the same design as the last 13-inch MacBook Pro, so it has wide bezels around the screen, no notch, and it still has a touch bar. The M2 MacBook Pro starts at $1299 with the 10-core GPU, while the M2 MacBook Air starts at $1199 with the 8-core GPU. They're both going to be available next month. Personally, I'm going to go with the MacBook Air in Midnight. Oh, yeah, there are 4 colors: Midnight, Starlight, Space Gray, and Silver. To run on the new MacBook, and whatever Mac you have at home, is a new version of macOS called macOS Ventura. There are a ton of small improvements and a few bigger ones they talked about. The new Stage Manager aims to make it easier to keep tons of tabs organized, with a vertical display of tab groups on the left-hand side you can switch between. There are tons of incremental improvements on existing features, with Mail getting some necessary but basic features. Similarly, Spotlight should be seeing some continued improvements. One of the more interesting security efforts underway for macOS is the removal of passwords for websites. Working with the FIDO Alliance, Apple and others are planning to move to a device-based authentication rather than a password-based one. This would let you log into a website with just biometrics, rather than using your device's biometrics to access your password to log into the site. This should be more secure, but does create some challenges when working across multiple devices from various manufacturers. Thankfully, Apple seems to understand that not everyone is totally engrossed in the Apple ecosystem 24/7, so you should be able to log into a non-Apple device via your iPhone, even if it's the ugliest Windows laptop you've ever seen. Gaming on Mac should also be getting better and better. Hardware acceleration continues to improve, and Metal 3 has Metal Effects upscaling, which is similar to AMD's Fidelity Effects Super Resolution or NVIDIA's Dynamic Super Resolution. These render games at a lower resolution to have higher performance and higher frame rates, then use advanced upscaling techniques to improve the look of the lower resolution image. This allows games to play at a higher frame rate than they otherwise would be able to, but exactly how well Metal Effects performs remains to be seen. Now, one last Mac feature coming is a pretty cool one, and one that might render the FaceTime camera built into your studio display obsolete. It's the ability to use an iPhone as your webcam. Now, this has been previously possible with some third-party apps, but now iOS and macOS will natively support it. It lets you use the ultra-wide camera for center stage, and the advanced image processing on the iPhone offers a much better image quality than most webcams. A more niche feature that builds on top of that is Desk View, which uses the same ultra-wide camera on the iPhone to offer what appears as a top-down view of your workspace in front of you. Now, I don't know when I would use it, but I'm sure there are plenty of people that will love having this option. Finally, from the Mac, Apple moved on to the iPad, where, in my eyes, the headlining feature is the addition of the Weather app. Well, there's lots of other stuff going too, but they have the Weather app now. iPad is getting better collaboration in Safari and Pages, with the new app Freeform being basically a giant white canvas where you can draw, type, and put images, video, or audio clips to collaborate together. Gaming on iPad is also getting better, with the same Metal 3 and upscaling that the desktop has. And that's not the only way iPad is continuing to evolve into a full computer. The new reference mode offers consistent color for content creators. Display scaling allows you to adjust the size of text and information to get more information on a single screen. And true windows are finally available. The iPad's getting the same stage manager that made its way to macOS, and now, when you plug in an external display, you can fully use it as a proper second monitor. This was just a pretty brief overview of everything Apple talked about, but there's plenty more to cover. So stay tuned and subscribe to the channel, because we have a lot more on the way. Once you do that, head over to 9to5mac.com for a detailed look at even more of the features coming from Apple.